During the Cold War, the CIA faced a problem that seemed almost impossible to solve. The Soviets were getting smarter. They knew their rooms were being watched. Their telephones could be tapped. Their buildings were under surveillance. So when sensitive conversations mattered, they simply stepped outside. A park bench, a quiet sidewalk, an open plaza, and suddenly, all of America's sophisticated surveillance technology had a problem. How do you listen to someone who knows you're listening? The CIA's answer was something so strange that it sounds like a joke. They would turn a cat into a spy. Not metaphorically. The plan was to place miniature listening equipment inside a living animal and send it close to people the CIA wanted to monitor. The project became known as Acoustic Kitty. And this wasn't science fiction. It was a real Cold War intelligence program. This is Dark Atlas. If you enjoy true stories about secret operations, forgotten disasters, hidden history, and the strange events governments once tried to keep hidden, subscribe to Dark Atlas. And if this story surprises you, leave a like and tell us in the comments what you think the CIA was actually trying to accomplish with this experiment. Because the strangest part of this story isn't that the CIA tried to make a spy cat. It's that, for a brief moment, the technology actually worked. By the mid-1960s, CIA scientists and engineers were working on increasingly sophisticated ways to place surveillance equipment where conventional devices couldn't go. Acoustic Kitty was developed within the agency's scientific and technical operations, alongside other experiments involving animals. The basic concept was brutally simple. A cat could walk into places where a human agent might immediately attract attention. Nobody watching a diplomatic compound would necessarily think twice about an ordinary stray wandering through the area. The challenge was turning that natural invisibility into a reliable intelligence system. Engineers had to miniaturize equipment small enough to fit inside a living animal. A microphone was designed to capture sound. A miniature transmitter would send that sound back to a nearby receiver. An antenna had to be concealed within the animal. And somehow, the cat had to be convinced to go exactly where the CIA wanted it to go. That last part would become the real problem. Inside controlled environments, researchers managed to train cats to move short distances toward designated locations. The CIA's own 1967 evaluation described this achievement as a remarkable scientific achievement. But a laboratory corridor is not Washington, D.C. Outside, there were cars, people, birds, strange smells, noise, wind, and thousands of distractions that had absolutely nothing to do with the Cold War. The CIA had solved the engineering problem. Now they had to discover whether they could solve the cat. The CIA now had a working prototype. But working in a laboratory was one thing. Using it against a real target was something else entirely. The cat had to move close enough to a conversation, remain there long enough to collect useful audio, and somehow avoid becoming distracted by everything happening around it. That meant the CIA wasn't simply training an animal. They were trying to override its instincts. The researchers experimented with behavioral conditioning to make the cat move towards selected locations instead of wandering wherever it wanted. They also faced a brutal technical problem. Every component had to be small. The microphone had to disappear into the animal. The transmitter had to remain hidden. The power source had to fit inside a tiny body. And the antenna had to be concealed beneath the fur. For the engineers, this was an extraordinary challenge for the 1960s. For the cat, none of it mattered. The CIA could control the equipment. It couldn't control curiosity. And eventually, they had to find out what happened when their carefully trained animal entered the real world. According to former CIA officer Victor Marchetti, one field test involved releasing a specially equipped cat near two men outside a Soviet diplomatic facility in Washington. The cat was supposed to move toward the men and capture their conversation. Instead, according to Marchetti's later account, the animal crossed the road and a taxi struck it. The story became one of the most famous and most repeated details of Acoustic Kitty. But there is a problem. We don't actually know that it happened that way. Former CIA technical chief Robert Wallace later gave a completely different account. According to Wallace, the field experiment demonstrated that the cat could not reliably perform its mission because it became distracted by its surroundings. But he said the animal wasn't killed. The equipment was removed. The cat was sewn back up, and, according to Wallace, it went on to live a normal life. The released CIA records don't settle the argument. There is no surviving primary document confirming a taxi collision. There is no released operational report describing the cat's death. And the CIA itself later rejected the taxi story as a myth. So the most famous moment in the entire story may never have happened exactly as we've been told. But something much less dramatic, and perhaps more important, definitely did happen. The CIA tested the concept. The technology could work. The animal could be conditioned for limited movement. But outside the controlled environment, the entire system began falling apart. The cat didn't understand the mission. It didn't understand Soviet intelligence. It didn't understand surveillance. It simply behaved like a cat. And that exposed the fatal weakness in the entire operation. The CIA had built a sophisticated listening device. They had solved miniaturization. They had solved implantation. They had even demonstrated controlled movement. But they had overlooked the one component they could never truly engineer: the animal itself. By 1967, the CIA had reached a conclusion that no engineer could solve. The problem wasn't the microphone. It wasn't the transmitter. It wasn't the antenna. It was the fact that a cat could not be trusted to follow the mission. In March of that year, the CIA produced an internal evaluation of the project. The conclusion was remarkably restrained. The agency acknowledged that training cats to move short distances was a genuine scientific achievement. But when the idea was considered for real intelligence operations, the environment changed everything. Traffic, noise, weather, other animals, unpredictable movement. A cat might be perfectly trained inside a controlled facility and completely ignore those instructions the moment it encountered the real world. And there was another problem. The CIA wasn't simply risking the animal. It was risking classified technology. If the cat wandered away, was captured, or was discovered near a target, the equipment could expose the entire operation. The intelligence value simply wasn't worth the risk. By October 1967, the decision was made to terminate the cat and bird programs for the following fiscal year because the operational opportunities were considered minimal. And with that, Acoustic Kitty disappeared. For decades, almost nobody knew it had existed. Then the Cold War ended. The classified files slowly began emerging through Freedom of Information requests. In 2001, historian Jeffrey Richelson and the National Security Archive published the declassified material that revealed the strange experiment to the public. Suddenly, one of the most unusual stories in Cold War intelligence was no longer a rumor. The CIA really had tried to turn a cat into a surveillance platform. But the story became even stranger because of what happened afterward. The public remembered the taxi. The $20 million price tag. The image of an animal being sent into the streets on a secret mission and immediately destroyed. But when researchers went back to the surviving records, those dramatic details became much harder to prove. The CIA's own documents don't establish the taxi death. They don't establish a $20 million total cost. And they don't show that Acoustic Kitty ever produced useful intelligence on an actual foreign operation. What they do show is something more interesting. A serious intelligence agency spent years trying to solve a problem with technology, and eventually discovered that technology wasn't the limiting factor. Nature was. The CIA could miniaturize a transmitter. It could hide an antenna. It could implant a microphone. It could train an animal inside a controlled environment. But it couldn't guarantee what that animal would do when the world around it changed. And that lesson extended far beyond one strange experiment. Acoustic Kitty was part of a wider Cold War fascination with using animals for intelligence, including experiments involving dogs, birds, and dolphins. The Cold War created an environment where almost any idea could be worth testing if someone believed it might provide an advantage. Some produced useful science, others produced dead ends, and some became legends. Acoustic Kitty became all three at once: a real experiment, a technological achievement, and a story surrounded by myths that became more famous than the evidence itself. So the next time you hear that the CIA sent a spy cat into Washington and watched it get flattened by a taxi, remember that history is rarely that simple. The strangest part isn't that the CIA tried it. The strangest part is that, for a moment, they actually made it work. And then they discovered something no secret agency could control. You can engineer the machine. You can't engineer the cat. This is Dark Atlas. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more forgotten operations, hidden history, Cold War secrets, and extraordinary events that actually happened. And tell us in the comments, would you have trusted the cat?